Hi, everybody. I've had an absolute blast recording your championship intros on audio and also on video. And for those of you that didn't know, the videos can be done special exactly the way you like them, because these are green screens and we can do them with a scene behind me. Do you want a fighting scene? Do you want a beach scene? Do you want a race car scene? Any scene you want, we can give it to you. It's your theme and my pleasure. Just write our offices and we will answer you with the exact fee involved and how it'll get done. So here we are, and now it's time, and it's your choice. Cheers!
From the shores of Malibu where the waves are pumping, to the Great Wall of China, and back to the streets of Las Vegas where the UFC is coming. We are live. This is It's Time Radio, the show where we talk about what you think about but may be afraid to voice. Do not worry. We will voice it for you. We talk about everything on It's Time. It's No Holds Barred Radio, folks. UFC, entertainment, film, TV, sex, drugs, rock and roll. And we're going to rock and roll today. I'm here with my co-host, TJ DeSantis. TJ, you've been on the road. You've been working. You've been out. You've been knocking down doors. Everything good? Where are you now?
Yeah, I'm still on the road. I'm in Las Vegas. It's day 5 of 7 straight when it comes to being on the air. So I'm tired, but I'm living. I'm loving life. It's good.
Good. Grab it, So, c'est la vie, joy to life, everything else that goes with it. We talk about No Holds Barred Radio. We've got a friend of the show. We're having back on the show today. I'm very happy to have him on. Eric Aude, stuntman, poker player, actor, author. Jesus, you name it, you do it. It's all there. But your story, your life, we had you on the show, a while back. And first off, thank you for coming back on, Eric. It's great to see you again.
Hey, Bruce, thank you so much for bringing me back on. It's always a pleasure to hear from you, speak to you, especially for you to help me promote my book that just released. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. No, I mean, this is a very fascinating book. I don't even know what to say. It's gripping. It's a story of survival. It's a story of redemption. It's, as you say, it's a story of the human spirit. You were in the darkest places anybody can possibly imagine. If anybody ever saw the movie Midnight Express, it might give a certain relation to what you went through. But we touched on this when you were on the show before. And first off, again, thank you for coming on. But this is a very compelling book. So let's act as if nobody knows what's going on. Let's talk about what your book, 3 Years in Pakistan, the Eric Aude story, is all about. And then we'll go into other aspects of your life too. But the dais is yours, Eric. Give us an understanding of this book, which is being released this week. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, it was released a couple days ago, actually. The book took me a long time to finally write the book. I tried for years to find a ghostwriter, and the ghostwriters would come on for like 3-4 months, and they would just take as much of my time as possible, hearing my story again and again and again. And they would try to go and write a treatment and then get an advance, but no publishing house is willing to give them an advance. And eventually they'd lose interest and move on. And I did this many, many, many times, and I was starting to get jaded because, like, by this time I had done Locked Up Abroad, and I didn't want to do Locked Up Abroad. I decided to do Locked Up Abroad after season 6, and they wanted me on since season 1. I was promoting my script, my book, my story, and everyone thought it was a great story, but no one wanted to pull the trigger and actually produce it or make it. The only people that wanted to do it was Locked Up Abroad, and the problem with Locked Up Abroad was Nat Geo is a world program, so it's in every country and every language, and they only took the exciting stuff from my story. They took a 13-hour rushed interview and crammed it into 48 minutes, and by doing that, they put it in every language. And I don't know if you know about the internet, but everyone on the internet is 7 feet tall. So I had every language, every nationality coming at me from all angles, telling me to kill myself, that I'm a liar, that there's no way I went into jail and was able to take on the whole prison. And I mean, that's how they interpreted it. That's not what happened, but that's how they interpreted it. So Locked Up Abroad really dropped the ball with me because, like I said, they took they crammed my story into 48 minutes, and that wasn't nearly enough to tell my whole story. So I was getting all these death threats. My episode was viewed over a billion times, by the way.
Did you say death threats?
Oh, yeah. I got death threats like weekly, sometimes daily for like the longest time because my episode was viewed over a billion times. So I had every personality coming at me. Granted, not everyone was negative, but a lot of people were negative. I mean, it was hit or miss whether you took the positive or the negative of it. And it was so bad that my friend Jamie Lynn, who I've known since we were teenagers because we were at the same acting agency, she heard of all the death threats and all the harassment I was getting online, and she's like, "We need to tell your documentary your way." So over the course of 2.5 years, she started interviewing all my friends. She started interviewing me, and we told my story, which is a lot more of it, but still not all of it. And it's also called 3 Years in Pakistan. So anyone who took the time to watch Locked Up Abroad and watch 3 Years in Pakistan did a 180. They said, look, before I just assumed you were a dickhead, a full of yourself ego guy. Now, after watching the documentary, it makes way more sense. Now, still at this time, I was still trying to get a book written, and no one would do it. It wasn't until I did a movie in Utah. I was stunt doubling an actor by the name of Craig Schaefer. And he's now a good buddy of mine. He played the quarterback in the program. And we were having dinner one night, and he, out of nowhere, he goes, "I know who you are." And then he starts asking me all these questions. And he's like, "Why is that not a movie yet? Why is that not a book?" And I told him how I was just hitting obstacle after obstacle, just trying to get the book written. And he's like, "Why don't you write your own book?" And at the time, I never really had the confidence to do anything on my own. But the truth was no one else was doing it. And yet everyone liked my story. Everyone appreciated my story. And I guess the reason why I was so adamant about sharing my story is because had I heard a story like mine back in the day, I think I would have been a lot wiser. I would have been able to see what it was that I was really being duped into doing, and I would have been able to avoid it. But also it doesn't make it all for nothing, in a sense. And also, if I could help keep somebody else from having to go through what I had to go through, then it's worth it in its own sense. So because Craig Schaefer was like kind of getting the fire lit under me and giving me a little confidence, he's like, "Just write it, send me a chapter." So I wrote a chapter, I sent it to him. He's like, "This is great, keep going." And it took me 2 years to write my book. This is back in 2015 when I started writing it, and it took me 2 years to write it. And I'm not a writer. I just put everything I could on the page. There was things I didn't remember in order, right. And then they would come back to me later. I'd go back and finish it. Well, after the book was finally written, I was like, all right, I'm ready to have this edited. Then I got all these editors coming at me wanting a ridiculous amount of money up front, and they wouldn't even edit it the way I wanted. It was literally like they were taking a machete to a forest and just hacking away all my personality and all my humor and the sadness, and because I just emptied myself onto these pages, and I was very I was very humble. I was very vulnerable, and a lot of bad happened in my life, and I shared it all. No matter how embarrassing it was, it's in the pages, and a lot of good happened too. But finding an editor to do the book the way I wanted was impossible. And 7 years went by before a buddy of mine, who's also a writer, Alex Ford, and we've known each other 25 years. He's finally like, "Let me take a stab at it," and I was like, they never even thought of it because he's a script writer. He wrote Same Kind of Different as Me and a bunch of other movies. Well, he knew my sense of humor. And I think my sense of humor was basically key to my survival, because in a bad situation, I was making fun of myself, and it was necessary. When most people would laugh during a bad situation or cry during a bad situation, I would be telling jokes and laughing and trying to bring up everyone's mood, because that's just how I was. I figured it's going to suck no matter what, so you might as well take it with a smile. And my boy edited it, and he did a great job. He kept my sense of humor there. I went back through the book about a month ago, really tediously going through it to find any mistakes and everything. And he did everything I wanted to, and now it's out, Bruce. And my book, granted, I know I have 2 documentaries about my life, but they don't even touch on my story. All they do is talk about the exciting parts, which was prison. But there was so much more to my life than prison. Like I've had 54 surgeries. I'm the first person on earth to have their urethra severed, reconnected. I was run over by a school bus when I was 8 years old. I was told I'd never walk again. I ended up not only doing that, I ended up setting a California record, which actually I've since found out is a record for multiple states. The most tackles for a defensive end in high school. It's high school, but it stands today. I had 147 tackles in 11 games my junior year. Over 101 tackles in 6 games and 1 quarter my senior year.
That'll make Max Crosby jealous.
Oh, I'm Al Bundy. I'm going back and I'm reliving those days. But it's a record that was set in '96, and I doubt will ever get broken, because I was a defensive lineman, and my story talks about how I was able to figure out how I was able to overcome the bus accident, how I was able to adjust to all the bad situations thrown at me. Because if anyone was built for prison, it was me, as sad as it is. And I'm kind of all over the place, but if you want to try to jump in and steer me in the right direction,
Oh,
ask
that's
me any
okay. Let me
questions.
go ahead. You say that. Okay, because I'm with you on all that. And one thing I know is the trials and tribulations of getting a book published and all that goes through it. I published my own biography some 10 or so years ago. And, the writing process, every time you try to re-edit it or read it, you're going to re-edit it, you're going to change it. It's never going to stop. You just have to finally say, hey, I'm done. And you got to put your heart on the table and let it all go, as we just let Eric go. There he is.
No, he's back. His camera just dipped out for a second, but
All good.
we're good. Real quick, Eric, I'm hearing all these things, and I don't know if I'm of the mind that you're the most blessed person I've ever met or the most cursed person I've ever met.
Well,
When
when you
talking about my dog snoring in the background.
okay, it's all right. No, you're blessed with that. You're blessed with that. You have, listen, you rescue dogs. You've had as many as 10. You have what, 8 or 9 now?
I have 9 now. Yeah.
Yeah, well, God bless you, man. I think it's incredible what you and your lady do with the dogs. It's awesome.
Real quick on the dog front, Eric, are they all the same kind of dog?
No, they're like everything. I had
Wow.
to put a poodle down. I love poodles. I'm a poodle guy, but I had to put my poodle down a couple weeks ago. She was
I'm sorry.
had a heart murmur and she was drowning in her own body. So
My goodness.
last day it was like she was in a swimming pool just trying to get air, and I had to rush her to the emergency room. But I still have another poodle. I have 2 pit bulls. We have a labradoodle. We have a lot of dogs that we're guessing what they are because we don't know what they are. But they're the dogs that no one wanted. They were either too old, too injured. One dog kept getting out and eating all the neighbors' chickens, so they weren't too happy about that. And the dogs I get are usually around 9, 10 years old, so I'm not going to have as long with them. And it hurts when they go. It hurts
you're
so
lucky to
bad.
have them for 3 or 4 years at that point. And they become your children. There's no question.
Oh, for sure.
We all can relate. If anybody's had an animal, cat, dog, otherwise, we can all relate. Eric, I think that's very commendable of you, and I'll say that again. But I want to get back to the meat of the situation because with everything else you talk about in your life and everything you've been through, the trials and tribulations of life in general, that is of interest and motivation and everything. But a lot of people are going to be attracted to your book because of what you actually went through. So let's just give a thing right here because, you were, how do I say this? I guess you were a pawn, right, in an international drug smuggling scheme, which put you in jail where you endured torture, everything, all the horrific. Like I said, if you watch Midnight Express, it's kind of like a partial showing of what you went through. But what exactly was the situation that happened? You were arrested at Islamabad International Airport with opium. Was that it?
Yes. Back in 2000, it was a couple months after 9/11. So I was going to Pakistan, the worst time ever. This would be my 3rd trip. The first 2 trips were to Turkey. I was a very good friend of mine at the time was a very successful Armenian businessman that used to work out with me at the gym that I ran the nighttime shift and was a trainer and a manager at. And he would hire a lot of the other gym people, late teens, early 20s, to travel around the world for him, importing expensive leather samples, and he'd pay them for it. Now, he would only pay them $800, but in my eyes, the trip was the payment. I had never been out of America at this point. I didn't even have a passport before I met this man. And for me, it was a dream job, right place, right time kind of job. And my first 2 trips were to Turkey, and they were amazing. I was so convinced that this is such a great opportunity that I would encourage it to everyone, my friends, my family, my brothers, my mother. And people would make these trips because of my recommendation. Many people went on these trips, and they had a great time. 9/11 happens. No one wants to make trips anymore. I'm working full time now as an actor stuntman. I'm not working at the gym anymore. I was working on Planet of the Apes. Worked on Scorpion King over the course of a year and a half. I was reoccurring on 4 different TV shows. I had a pilot set to start in late February, and I just finished the show, the Andy Dick Show. Or I was reoccurring on the Andy Dick Show as his psychic. And my brother at the time wasn't doing very well, so he could have used $800, and he asked me to set him up with my buddy Ray. So I set him up with my buddy Ray, and Ray sets up a trip. about 10 days before my brother's supposed to go on this trip, Ray calls me and says, hey, your brother's not going now. I've already set everything up. I'm going to lose a lot of money. You got to talk to him. I don't understand what's going on. You know, my brother's wanting to go, and now he's making me look like an asshole. So I call my brother. I'm like, hey, why aren't you going? No, what's the problem? He's like, I'm not going over there. It's not safe. I'm like, you're going to love Turkey, dude. It's fun. It's great. And then you get to go to Sweden or somewhere else on the way back. He's like, it's not to Turkey. It's to Pakistan. And this was news. It was my brother telling me for the first time that it was to Pakistan. And I knew nothing of Pakistan. So I can't encourage this trip anymore. So I call my boy Ray and I go, hey, what's this about it being in Pakistan? He goes, yeah, because of what's going on in Afghanistan. And I'm getting a really good deal on leather. And I'm like, well, if you're getting such a good deal, then why don't you just FedEx it all back? No one wants to go. Now, when I say I'm going to do something, I always keep my word. My word means a lot to me. And my boy Ray was letting me know that I was putting him in a really bad spot. I'm sorry that I didn't let you know it's Pakistan, but I've already set up everything. Your brother has to go, otherwise I'm going to be really screwed over. And he starts to kind of guilt trip me. And I felt bad. Now, I can't force my brother to go, but I didn't want to leave my boy Ray hanging. So I stepped in place, and I took the trip in place of my brother. And I always say this, I'm so glad that what I was about to find out and go through was happening to me and not somebody else because of me. I would be the one to find out the hard way that we were all being used to unknowingly smuggle narcotics. I was arrested at Islamabad airport with 3.6 kg built professionally in the walls of the suitcase. If you empty the suitcase and shuck it out, it looks like an empty suitcase, but put in the walls of the suitcase, very thin, behind everything sewn in was the opium. And
3.6 kilos, right?
3.6 kilos, which I think was 2.2 per kilo, so like 8 pounds. People are like, how did you not know? I didn't, okay? The suitcase with all the stuff would be heavy. 8.2
spreads over luggage very easily.
Yeah.
Well, there's a theory also that it doesn't feel like it was that much in the way people were, because everyone around me in jail who was getting arrested, they're getting arrested with like 15, 20 kg. And everyone's like, why are you only doing 3.6? I'm like, first off, I wasn't doing anything. I was a dupe. I didn't know about all this. Second off, there's a chance they used me as bait so that they can get in the real drugs. I mean, that's a theory. It's a theory.
They get in a bigger supply. Out of curiosity, at that time, what would be the street value of 3.6 kilograms of opium?
I don't know because I wasn't in on it. But I read in newspapers whether or not it's accurate or not. Read in newspapers that it could be like $1.5 million at the time. But I'm not in the business, so I think that's a bit high. But I don't know because I'm not in the game.
Historically, from what I've heard on drug charges, is they tend to inflate the street value and obviously inflate the weight a little bit generally to kind of stick it to you a little bit more. And, I'm not an expert here, but I'd be curious if maybe it was closer to half the amount you actually had, Eric, and they were just trying to make your life a little bit tougher.
Bottom line, you got shoved in jail and as a result of this. So, Eric, answer the couple of bullet questions here. You get arrested. How fast do you go to trial?
Oh my God! So I get arrested. I get brought to the police lockup. It's at the airport police lockup. They put me in one cell, and people are trying to fight me the second they find out I'm American. So they have to put me in another cell. And a consular from the embassy, along with a Pakistani interpreter, come to meet with me. And the first thing consulars think when they hear of an American and drug charges is, all right, he's a junkie. He's a pathetic human being. I tell this woman everything. I tell her everything. I go, look, this is my job. You can call my mother. You can call my, I give her a bunch of names, especially my mom's. She says, all right, well, this is what's going to happen. You're going to be presented in the court tomorrow, and they're going to decide how many days for physical remand. I'm like, what's physical remand? They said, well, physical remand in Pakistan, they figure that if they can't get the truth out of you, then they can beat it out of you. Physical remand it's torture. It's legalized torture. And I was like, how are they allowed to do that? And she's like, our job is to make sure that you're not being treated differently than anyone else. Unfortunately, while she's saying this, there's a guy on his back, chained to a chair, having the bottom of his feet beaten. So being treated differently than anyone else is not.
You're watching that? You're watching that? Yeah.
It's not a big favor.
So did you wind up getting tortured, Eric?
I got tortured for 3 days for information I did not have whatsoever. I was electrocuted. I was drowned. I was hung up like a punching bag and rockied on. They love to beat the bottom of your feet. They got a foot fetish in Pakistan. On the first 2 days, they just wanted me They were asking me questions, like the same questions, and then they would beat me and they'd ask me the same questions. Where did you get these drugs? What's their address? What's their phone numbers? Where are they? On the third day, they just wanted me to admit the drugs were mine. I never admitted anything. I took the beatings, I took the drownings, I took the electrocutions, and I was pissed. Like I was just absolutely pissed. So I'm thinking there's no way I'm going to be here though, because I'm innocent. I'm like, I'm innocent. Everyone knows I'm innocent. Everyone back home knows what I was doing. This wasn't a secret. And so I don't think I'm going to be here that long. They bring me to the prison. They bring me to the biggest prison in all of Pakistan. This prison was built in 1986, meant to only house 1,800 prisoners, but it had over 6,000 prisoners there, hundreds coming and going. Opening day on prison in prison, they have these guys called number guards. Number guards are bigger prisoners who get extra privileges for doing the guards' dirty work. And they're, one of the things they get to do is they get to welcome all the new incoming fish. And usually there's like a dozen or so coming in, and they branch off one-on-one, two-on-one. That day, though, everyone knew I was coming because I was in the newspapers every day, an American actor. They were calling me the hero of the mummies because I worked on the Scorpion King. So those dumb shits all thought I was Brendan Fraser. No shit. So everyone thought I was a multi-millionaire coming to this prison. So everyone's like, shit, we're gonna get some money. Only thing I ever knew about prison is what I learned from watching HBO Oz, right? Like I'm like, if you go in sweet, you're gonna be someone's bitch. So I'm pissed. My feet hurt. I'm tired. I haven't eaten anything during this whole fucking torture. And I'm not a prisoner in these guys' eyes. I'm innocent, so I'm not going to act like I'm guilty. And this guard over here, after they take the chains off me, he's like doing this boxing thing, thinking it's funny. I'm like, just open the fucking gate. And I treated this shit like kickoff because my whole goal was like, I'm going to go in and make a message. Now, these guys had horseshoed around the door, so I guess they thought they were going to corral me. But I went right through them so that they couldn't surround me, and I started backpedaling. Great thing about Pakistanis, though, is they got the beards, they got the dresses, they got the sandals. So they don't really have good fighting gear on. And I'm grabbing beards and throwing them on the ground. I'm backpedaling and just dropping these guys in a line. Now, the whole courtyard, like the guards, they're probably taking bets up in the pillars, and the other prisoners in the roofs are like, who the fuck is this guy? I thought I was only going to be there a day, max 2 days. If I knew then what I knew now, I would have gone and been like, high fives, let's buy some chicken, let's have some tea. But I didn't speak the language. So anyways, this little guy who's a prison worker, Mashukti, comes over. He's like 4'10", and he's like, la, la, la. And I'm thinking, like, what's this guy going to do? He looks like an Oompa Loompa. And he grabs me by the wrist to, like, follow him. All right, so these guys are like, fuck it, we're not doing this anymore. He takes me all the way to the barracks, and it's prayer time. In the middle of the prison, this is a massive prison, by the way. You got thousands and thousands of prisoners on their prayer mats. So all eyes are seeing me as I'm walking to the processing barracks. Granted, I'm tired. I'm fucking tired. I'm scared. I don't know what the hell's happening. No one speaks English. And I get put in the processing barrack. I just want to sleep, but my mind won't shut down, and my body's tired. So I'm literally trying to sleep. It's an empty barrack except for like someone like sweeping the ground. And then you can kind of feel when people are in your bubble. And I hear like a bunch of footsteps, and second I open my eyes, it's everyone like right here, like right in my face. And they're like, what country? And I'm like, I learned the hard way back at the police lockup, not what not to say. So I was like, Pakistan, born and raised, right down the road. That's where I'm.
Yeah, great action for it.
You're American. I'm like, no, I'm not. And they're like showing me a photo, and it's me being a dick, like with my arms around the guards when I got arrested at the police or at the airport. I'm like, that doesn't even look like me. Next thing you know, I'm getting the shit kicked out of me. I'm like the Santa Claus in Gremlins, and these guys are all over me. I'm tired, and I'm like backing out on the second patio, which is the second story of the barracks. And I throw a dude off of me. He goes crowd surfing. There's people down below, and the guards are like, fuck, we better get into this. So they start baton charging everyone. They start baton charging me. They drag me to Kasuri, and I end up spending my first 5 days in prison in Kasuri. Kasuri is a dark closet. It's not long enough for you to lay out completely. You're going to be cramped the whole time. There's a hole in the corner for you to go defecate and urinate. It's covered in cockroaches, mosquitoes. I mean, it's winter at this time, so it's not as bad, but it sucks. You can't even see your hand in front of your face. It's so dark. The only time, I'm sorry.
It's all right. It actually is quite fitting. You can't even see the hand in front of your face. Yeah. It's so dark.
My phone's dying. Can I plug it in real quick?
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
You got to do it.
Okay. I'll be right back. Sorry.
TJ, his story is fascinating. We'll get more out of him into it, but I don't think any human being can relate to going through something like this.
No, and that's the thing, too. One thing I can relate to, Buff, and I think that you have done this many times over more than me, but when you clear customs, even if you know you're not doing anything wrong, if you are in a place for the first time it starts going through your head. Like, do I have, migraine medicine? Is this migraine medicine potentially not legal here? Like, you can get in your own head very easily. And sometimes there are certain situations where you go to places and, certain prescription medication in this country that's completely fine can land you in a whole ton of trouble. Like, I have never traveled with drugs. I never plan on traveling with drugs. But I can tell you straight up, if I'm going to go to a place like the Philippines right now, Bruce, like I'm terrified that I got something on me that's going to be bad.
Oh, you can't even, spit on the sidewalk in the Philippines without getting in trouble. So, it's just
Hey, Aaron, will you put the dogs away?
gotta get careful all the way around. I going everywhere. You carry your prescriptions with you. If you have prescriptions, the whole bit, which is nothing compared to what Eric went through.
Right.
Eric, you're back, and
I'm sorry about that.
no, don't be sorry at all. Don't be sorry at all. Everything's okay.
My battery for some reason.
Don't worry. So with that being said, okay, just the beatings and everything else, this first 5 days, did it ever calm down in jail to where you weren't facing beatings or fighting or establishing who you are? When did it get to a point where over the 3-year period you're serving your sentence that you were able just to exist in a daily routine?
Oh, I would say after the first year. The first year was pretty hard. First year was just hell because
You ever think about killing yourself?
all the time, every fucking day, dude, every day, I thought about doing that. And it wasn't from like sadness and all that nonsense. It was because I was in so much pain that I had these really bad earaches that would keep getting become reoccurring. And the embassy brought these quack Pakistani doctors to visit with me. And they ended up popping both my eardrums, which just made it worse. So I always had these earaches that were just constantly coming back. And I was just, it feels like you have a toothache just in the side of your head.
As tough as you, go ahead, I'm sorry.
And I thought about suicide all the time, especially because of those earaches. And I didn't even think it would be me being weak. It would just be humane at the point because I was in so much fucking pain.
And were you able to communicate with any of your family or anybody outside at any time?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Look, when people think of prison in a foreign country, I'm going to tell you right now, in a sink or swim situation, I was jet skiing. It took me, the second I sat there and went to jail, I didn't just sit there in a corner and feel sorry for myself because I was like, no, I need to get myself out of here. I need to do something. The best thing for me to do right now was to learn the language. So I started making these flashcards and I was learning 20 to 40 words a day, just constantly pounding it in my head. And I was learning the alphabet. I was teaching myself how to do everything. So now these assholes who hated me and thought I was a piece of shit American were now like understanding and seeing me as a human. And they're like, holy crap, you can speak the language. And I started to see them as humans. And that was the best weapon for me, was learning the language. And once
pardon me for interrupting you. And then, was it ever like in America where you had a cell to yourself, or were you in a group cell, or?
No. They couldn't. Some dipshit put a 5,000 rupee bounty on my head, and at the time that was $87, and people were trying to collect it all the time
To kill you?
Yes. So I was getting stabbed. I was getting in crazy fights, and like someone could smile at me, and I'd turn my head, but I would make them think that I wasn't looking at them, but in my peripheral, I see them move quick, and so next thing I know, I'm moving away from like a little makeshift razor or a little makeshift nail that got sharpened and melted into a cigarette lighter handles.
Jeez.
And it was happening all the time that the superintendent was like, we need to put him someplace where this isn't going to happen. So they put me on death row. I would spend the first 9.5 months in jail on death row because that's the safest place for me, and that's probably where I'm going to end up being, is what the superintendent thought. So on death row, at least the majority of the prison couldn't get to me except when I'm going to and from court or going to and from the front of the prison for visitations or embassy visits, or just a superintendent who wanted to hang out with me.
And what about food? Did you get 3 hots a day?
No, that's not how it works in Pakistan. They have a bucket that goes around, and when you're not in Kasuri, you only get fed once, by the way. But they have a bucket that goes around, and they have like a spoon that they fill in your cup with dal, lentil soup kind of food, with a roti, which is like a tortilla. And that's your food. That's your food. If you don't have money, you're going to starve. I was starving like crazy because like I'm twice as big as everyone there, yet I haven't eaten the same amount of food, and they're starving. So I was really hurting. They have canteens there, but you have to get money into the prison. And if you get money into the prison and the guards know that, they're going to pay you a visit at night, because the guards' whole job, their job is to get money out of you. A guard only makes 6,000 rupees a month, and that at the time that's $100. to work inside the prison, but they have to pay 15,000 rupees for the opportunity to work in the prison a month. So they're paying $250 just for the opportunity to work inside that prison.
That doesn't
Why
compute.
is that?
Yeah.
Because that's where the money is. They're beating it out of you. They're extorting it out of you.
Okay.
Or
So
they're
they're
working for you.
They're paying more to work there than they're making when they work there, but it's because they can steal while they're there and make money while they're there stealing.
Correct. Yeah.
And
So-
this is horrible.
And because I'm a foreigner, they don't think I can tell on them. So they were coming after me at night. I couldn't go to sleep because when I went to sleep, they would come in and beat the crap out of me. And I would hide the money pretty good, but they would still come in and take me on in the middle of the night.
How did you
got
get
so
the money?
bad. From the embassy at first, from the embassy, and then the embassy stopped showing up, stopped bringing my money. I had to get money in through another way, and it's all in my book. Trust me, I'm just giving you like
No. The
topic
book is
points,
meant to
but-
be read. The book is meant to be read. Are you telling me the embassy gave up on you after a while?
Yes. Once you're convicted, embassy doesn't have to come see you. They don't have to help you get a lawyer. Nothing. And also, the embassy has such a rotating door of consulars. So the first consular that came and saw me, her name was Christy. She was great. She was wonderful. She was compassionate. She actually believed that I was innocent. She 100% believed I was innocent because my story matched my mom's when she called her. And so when I was still with the third and final night I got tortured and I was back in the prison lockup, there was some army official there I think he was just there because he was trying to hook up with her. And he wasn't saying nothing. Well, they let me use a cell phone to call my mom to try to see if they found Ray. She's trying to get a lawyer, and it's just a little. I was there to let her know, hey, I'm doing okay. It's not as bad as you might think. It was terrible, but she didn't need to know that. And then I'm telling her, look, we got to get a lawyer, and I didn't do this and that kind of stuff. But my mom knew I didn't do it. And then as soon as I hang up, this dipshit from the army was like, hey man, I'm just gonna take my advice or don't, but throw yourself on the mercy of the court. Don't lie to them. And maybe they'll be lenient. And I'm like, dude, fuck you, dude. Because I'm not, this guy that thinks he knows me, he's like, well, maybe next time you'll pack a little lighter. And so he's basically calling me a dipshit drug smuggler. And I'm calling him out. Like, I'm pissed. Fuck this guy. I'm going off on this guy. And while I was going off on this guy, Christy said something that I needed to hear at that moment. She says, Eric, I believe you. Like, I think that was more an F you to him, too, to let her know she wasn't interested. But also, it was a huge morale boost because at the time I'm on the other side of the planet. And yeah, it looks like I'm a drug smuggler. But only people that know I'm not are the people back home. And now I got an ally over here who believes in me. It was the words I needed to hear.
Got it.
So,
and then, I'm sorry, Eric.
Yeah.
And then, so your first year is this horrific, I mean, beyond anybody's contemplation, horrific series of events, which you probably touched on maybe 20% of what took place. One of the biggest fears of any man going to jail is sexual assault. Aside from the beatings and all, did they try to come at you that way too?
Well, if I was in the barracks, 100% that would have happened. In the barracks, I thank God that I wasn't American in jail because they couldn't put me in the general population because everyone kept trying to kill me. If they put me in the foreigner barracks were full of all the Nigerians, South Africans, Tanzanians. I think I would have been passed around and sold to everyone for 2 cigarettes. I would have been the belle of the ball. But because I was on death row, I had my own cell on death row. And once a new superintendent came, they said, why is he on death row? He hasn't been convicted of death. And they told him, we can't put him in general population, otherwise he'll be dead. So they put me in a 2-cell. 2-cell was for political prisoners and prisoners who had money. And I still always had my cell. I always had my own cell in jail, which was a huge luxury. Some of the cells would have up to 9 people in them. These are like 8 by 10 feet cells too, right? And granted, you got cracks in the walls. You got a squat toilet. There's no beds. You're just on the floor, and that's your cell. But in jail, once I started learning the language, I started having routines. I work out every day. I was working on my case. I was trying to study. I was writing letters like crazy. When the embassy did come and see me and give me money, I would use that money to make my life a little better. I'd get books. I'd get learning material. I was learning different languages. I was cooking for myself. I kept writing to the courts to give me more privileges. I wanted a bed, so that I was able to get a bed. I wanted the swamp cooler because the weather there is just awful. People who complain here about how hot it is, I'm like, this is winter.
Yeah.
Absolute winter. You know what we call 105 degrees in Pakistan? Winter. That's what we call it. And one thing I would always do during the hottest parts of the summers where it was 127, 137 degrees wet hot is I would go and I would run back in front of my cell. There was a 25-yard little walking hallway, and I would run back and forth 64 times, just so in case there was ever an opportunity for me to escape, I would have the endurance to get the fuck away.
Did you ever try to escape, Eric?
There was no opportunity where I wouldn't have had to hurt somebody. And so there were opportunities, but I would have had to hurt someone and hurt them bad. And
that would have been worse for you.
These are guards just doing their job. These are guards who love talking to me. These are guards who I had become friends with.
Right.
So I manned up. I took it. I stayed there. But if there was an opportunity where all of a sudden the guy goes to the bathroom, there's a window there, I know how to get to the border of India. Trust me, at least I wanted to have a fighting chance to get away.
I'm sure you had a plan. I'm sure you had a plot and planned it out. So during this first year, which was the worst year, then the second and third year, and I don't think cakewalk is the proper words, but it came down to more of a routine. Did you know you were going to get out at 3 years, or were you just told at a certain point?
I kept going back and forth to court many, many, many times, and the whole reason why I had to go to court so many times is either the judge wouldn't show up, the prosecutor wouldn't show up, the witnesses wouldn't show up, or my own lawyer wouldn't show up. I didn't have a lawyer, I think, for like maybe 6, 7, 8 months.
Wow.
Because everyone in Pakistan doesn't see a human life; they see an opportunity to get crazy money. Yeah. For anyone else, for a drug smuggling case of this magnitude, which is considered small, like this is only 3.6, I would always be only 3.6. That's a $400 case for anyone else. But because I'm an American, because I'm an actor and I'm a stuntman, and they also think I'm Brendan Fraser, I was being asked for $100,000, $200,000, $4 million. I would have little guys come up to me at the courts when I'm in chains, walking through the masses, saying, "Hey, I will represent you for $4 million." And I'm like, "You mean check?" Which is still ridiculous because it's a 24,000 rupee case. And they'd be like, "This is a death sentence case, my friend. Dollars." I'm like, you take check? You fucking people.
Yeah, no, that's crazy.
No one was giving me a fighting chance. They were looking for a way to capitalize off of my situation. And the judge kept delaying my case because he wanted $125,000 for my acquittal. And then finally, when they realized I don't have that kind of money, he brought it all the way down to 60,000 rupees, which is only $1,000. And everyone was like, "Congrats, Eric, you're going home." And by this time, I'd been in jail for 11 and a half months. I'd had everything taken away from me. And they're like, "Congrats, you're going to go home. Now, here's the deal. We're going to pay the judge 60,000 rupees, and he's going to give you a 2-year prison sentence, and then you're going to be gone in like 4 months because of good remissions and a couple of bribes. The only thing is, you have to plead guilty." And I was like, "What the fuck?" And they were like, "Eric, it was the consular, and by this time it was a different consular because, like I said, the consulars kept rotating out. Christy was only there for 4 months, but then I'd get a new consular who only knew that I was a drug smuggler in jail. So they would treat me like an addict. They treat me like a piece of shit. And so this consular never liked me because in my eyes, I was never a prisoner. I was a hostage, and I was in a situation I did not deserve to be in. So I didn't take anyone's shit whatsoever. Yeah. But when this woman told me, "Eric, what do you care? It's Pakistan. Just plead guilty." And at that point, I hadn't made my decision, but I was pissed that they were telling me to plead guilty. And then it was the Pakistani interpreter, Afzal, who made my decision for me. He says, "Eric, what do you care? It's Pakistan. What's worth more to you, your pride or your freedom?" And I remember looking at him when he said that. And I was like, "You little bastard." Because that made my decision so easy right there.
Yeah, that was easy for you there. So now you've got the conviction on your record. But here in the United States, a cop stops you, a police officer stops you, and checks your record. Is your Pakistan arrest on your record here in the United States?
Only at the airport.
Only at the airport. And does that ever cause you an issue at the airport?
It used to, not anymore. When I would come back overseas, I was always getting stopped. I got strip searched on my way back in Chicago O'Hare Airport on Christmas, and I was the only white guy that got off the plane, and they strip searched me. They made me miss my connecting flight. But yeah, I would when I'd go film movies in other countries and come back, I would get taken to another place. They're like, "Go ahead and sit down." I'm like, "What's this about?" "Don't worry about it." "Well, I got people waiting for me," and then I had to call the cops on the TSA, the police at LAX before because they refused to let me leave. And I'm like, "I'm being held against my will. I don't comply." Yeah, I'm being held against my will. So cops came to LAX to tell these people, "Hey, either charge them or let them go."
And you don't have to deal with that anymore.
I haven't had to in a long time because now it's easier because I'm an actor. I'm a working stuntman. People actually get excited when I tell them what I do. "Yeah, what have you done?" And then they pull me up real quick. It's easier now to figure out things on your phone. So then they're like, "Okay." Like
And
if I was a drug smuggler, I would have gone back into jail already. I would have already been in a lot more trouble, but I've gone on with my life. I've succeeded. I've done a lot of great things. And I'm just a very unlucky guy who found out the hard way what we are all being used to do.
well, let's take a few minutes and talk about the lucky things you've done since then. I mean, I think people need to touch on this book, grab this book, buy this book, read this book to see more about your story. Because again, you're touching on less than 10% of probably what's in the book. I assume you'll never have a layover in Pakistan.
Well, I'm blackballed from the country, so I can't go
Okay,
back.
so that's fine. Big effing deal, right?
Darn.
Yeah, darn. That's a shame. Okay, but since then getting back, I mean, I want to get more into not your what we've done your past there, but I mean, you're an active actor, you're an active stuntman, you're also a restaurateur, right?
Well, I was, but then COVID. I had 9 bars at one
That
point.
was my next question. Did COVID affect your restaurant career?
Oh yeah. We had. I only have 3 kind of bars now, and they don't pay out anything. I got a Stout in Studio City on Ventura, and a Tipsy Cow and La Bouvet in Sherman Oaks that are also on Ventura Boulevard, and they're not doing well. I tell everyone, don't invest in bars, buy the building, and just charge the lease.
Yeah, no, that's always the way to go. Be the real estate owner and lease it out to people. Let them do the work, especially in this day and age. Actively playing poker
every day, every day with my friends.
Online or live?
Online, yeah. We play every day. We're degenerates. We play $20 tournaments every night at 7.
Yep. Well, I know you love poker. I just played the Max Payne Monday at the Hustler a couple weeks ago.
How'd you do?
I was the top winner. I had a great night. I won $21,000.
That's a good night.
Yeah, it was a great night. It was wild. I want to go back and play again. It was very, very. It was it's a high stakes cash game.
Sure.
So, pardon me for mentioning that kind of money. I'm always careful about talking money on the show, but I mean, you've played big games. You know what it's like in poker.
Yeah. No. Are you going to play the series this year at all?
I schedule won't allow it. I've got too many shows, UFCs, everything else, and I need to enjoy some time at home. I'm on the road like crazy. I mean, next week I go to Rio, then St. Louis, then Vegas. My birthday's on May 21st, so I have a 3-week period off, which I'm really looking forward to. And then UFC's going international like crazy this year, Eric. We've got shows in Saudi Arabia in June, and then I get back and I got to go to Manchester, England. From there I got to go to Abu Dhabi, get home 2 weeks later, Perth, Australia. Then a couple local shows. Newark is June 1st. And then they got Paris and Abu Dhabi again during the fall, and it's just really, this is probably the heaviest international schedule the UFC's ever had.
Dude, you're living the dream. I'm over here getting hurt from money, and then I go and remodel homes and hang out at the shelter. That's what I'm doing, and honestly, I'm happy.
We're all living the dream in our own little way. Listen, I love my dream. I love my life. I'm the novelty of traveling and getting on a plane is completely worn off. To be honest,
I love traveling, but especially for work. But I love traveling, which is why I ended up falling into this spider web of getting stuck in Pakistan.
Yeah, well, I love traveling too. But when when I head out on a Thursday to England and come back on a Sunday, that's not exactly a grand trip, except when I'm in the octagon.
Sure.
All kidding aside, no, it's a grand trip. It's all fun. Don't cry for me, Argentina. Love my life. It's all good. But look, the show's not about me. The show's about you. And with all that being said, Eric, now you're at a point in your life. You're 46 years old. This happened when you were 27.
44.
Sorry, I don't mean to age you too quick. 27, this happened?
No, this happened. My first trip was when I was 19. I was 21 when I got arrested.
Got
it. It was right after 9/11, just a couple months after 9/11. So
did your family members come over to see you?
No, not one. I never had a good family, a close family. I basically, even though I'm the youngest of 6 boys, I grew up an only child, and that's all in my book. My book is it's not a happy time. Like I said, if anyone was built for prison, it was me. I grew up in a lot of pain because of the bus accident. I grew up not being able to walk. I grew up getting bullied. I grew up getting beat. But I grew up with a smart-ass mentality because I like to read. I like to talk shit. And my whole thing is this is going to hurt no matter what, so I might as well go out with a smile. That was always my mentality.
Does the book end on a positive note, which obviously is your life?
Yes,
onward?
It does. It does end up on a positive note. It talks about kind of where I am today, that I'm married, that I have my dogs, that I remodel houses, that I'm still acting stunt and stunt coordinating, that I don't have to worry about anything,
And your wife is
I've learned how to see the positive in every little thing possible.
Your wife is absolutely lovely, and you make a wonderful couple. You know,
she's great. No, I'm lucky to have her. We've been together over 10 years, and we've been married just over a year.
Love it.
So I'm very lucky to have her.
Congratulations on that. Congratulations on enjoying life with everything that you've been through. You know, and you think about other situations. Sure, there's other people that go through the same thing, and you probably read about it. Do you have sympathy for other people when you read about it?
Of course. I mean, I put myself in a lot of people's shoes in certain scenarios. Like, what happened to me was awful, but like I said, I was glad that it happened to me and not my brother or one of my friends because of me. When I read about, there's that story that I just read where that girl was, locked in a basement for 24 years by her dad, and then had a bunch of kids, and like, what the hell, man?
I know it. There's so many crazy stories out there. Here's a crazy story for you. It was on the news. Did you hear about this, TJ, at all? This Brazilian woman, she hitched a ride with her uncle before going to the bank. So she goes to the bank, and if you ever saw the movie Weekend at Bernie's, this is kind of like that. She wheels her uncle into the bank and tries to take a loan out on his name, signing the paperwork by holding his hand, signing the paperwork.
Oh, no.
He was dead.
Oh, no.
He was dead. She hitched a ride in a taxi, goes in the bank with her dead uncle, trying to get a $3,400 loan. I mean, if that's not one of the weirdest stories I've ever heard, that's incredible. To actually take his limp hand like Weekend at Bernie's and tries to sign the paperwork.
That's insane.
It's got like nail polish and everything on it as well.
I don't know.
People are dumb.
It's wild. It's wild. Eric, are you a big collector of? You collect anything at all?
Yeah, I collect rocks from all over the world, coins. I've collected comic books and baseball cards for years. I've remodeled 356 Chevys. I have my original car that I've restored myself.
Very cool.
But yeah, that's what I mean. I collect dogs, a lot of dogs, pretty much.
No, we know. Well, you'll be happy if you collect comic books. You'll be happy to hear that the comic featuring Superman's first appearance ever just sold for a record $6 million.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah, $6 million. I remember when this actually was sold for like $1 million. Not too many years ago. It's amazing how fast it goes up. And I just saw a Derek Jeter rookie card, I think from 1983 or whenever it was, $310,000. You hear these stories all the time.
Jeez.
No, I'm a big collector of sports memorabilia too. I love vintage, pre-1970, unopened wax packs, cards, all that kind of stuff. So, and that's a great way in this day and age where who knows where the dollar's going and deflation and inflation and recession and everything going with it. But collectibles, the Wall Street Journal once said, numismatic coins and stamps, you collect coins, antique weapons, which is another thing I collect, and sports memorabilia. It actually becomes more valuable during times of recession. Just go on eBay.
What do you think about crypto? Are you have any of that?
I read all these stories. People like I just read the other day, a 17-year-old kid invested $1,000 in crypto. It's worth 27 million now. The answer to your question is no. I'm not an active looking to get in and out of crypto. I think it's too volatile. But I did put a small amount of money into Bitcoin, and I'm happy to say it's doubled. And I'll just keep it in there. In 20 years, if I'm still around, we'll see where it's at.
Oh, I'm telling you right now, I think by the end of this decade, Bitcoin's going to be worth anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million, and by the end of next decade, $5 to $12 million. That's what I believe.
That's what people say. It's incredible. I don't listen. If people can set aside $100 if you're young, or even $1,000, whatever, and just put it in, forget about it, and see where it goes.
Yes, but don't forget about your keys and how to do all that stuff. You know the Mizrakis, right?
The what?
The Mizrakis. They're the bunch of the brothers, the poker players.
Yeah. Of course I do.
They got me into crypto, actually. They really got me into crypto, but because I was always sending Bitcoin to other poker players during the World Series so I could own like 10% of them in a bigger tournament. And so there was a paper trail. Well, one of the guys that was in charge of the ledger, he died in a car accident. And by the time he died in a car accident, there was 5 of us that had 3,000 Bitcoin in his ledger. 600 of that is mine, by the way. 600 Bitcoin I will never, ever be able to access.
Oh my God,
that's crazy.
It's like $60,000 a coin right now.
What if it worth now? It's worth what? 27? What is it at?
No, it's like $60,000, Buffer, a coin.
Jesus Christ.
And people ask me, Eric, how do you feel about this? Is it the worst thing that's ever happened? I go, not even close.
No, not even close. How many do you have? 600 coins?
I have 600 coins I can't access.
That's $36 million.
Yeah, my head hurts every time it goes up and down. I just
That
want
would
to
make
cry.
my butt ache forever. Oh my God, that's crazy.
So,
Wow.
could always be worse. I say, could always be worse.
Next time you put down loan papers, put down the fact you've got 60,000 bitcoins over there. They wouldn't know the difference.
They
I'm
want to see
kidding.
proof.
I'm kidding. They'll actually ask you why the hell you need a loan.
That's why I'm big into crypto, and trust me, I got my stuff safe now. But that's why I like buying houses and old houses, and I like remodeling them. It's fun.
That's also a great way to make money, great way to invest. You guys remember the Lee Murray heist in England? The largest bank.
Oh yeah. There's a great documentary.
Great documentary.
Is that where they took a nap underneath in the movie with Jason Statham?
What now?
Was it the movie with Jason Statham?
No.
That's just another film. But it's funny. You take the Jason Statham movie, which is an excellent film. I really enjoyed it. And then you take the Lee Murray story, and then we had the situation here in L.A. where there was the $22 million airport gold heist, which potentially could be an inside job.
It had to have been. It had to have been
when you think about it.
I firmly believe the Lee Murray heist had some inside dealings with it as well. The documentary kind of outlines it as well. So to pull off a heist that big, guys, there has to be some collusion.
No, there has to be. There has to be. But he's not spending the money right now, but we'll see. They got to make a movie about that. That's a movie. Lee Murray's life is a movie.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure, when you watch that. Absolutely. And just like yours, Eric, are you working on selling? I know you had the documentary out. Are you working on or have somebody trying to, get a movie made?
I got a lot of people interested. The rights of my movie when I first got out, Robert Chardoff, I don't know if you know that name, but Robert Chardoff was big into my movie, and he owned the rights up until his death. Robert Chardoff produced Rockies.
Yeah, Robert Chardoff, yes.
Yeah. So I went to his house. He was living down there in Venice, and every year he would send me like fish, like during the holidays. That was his. He would UPS fish to me. It was weird. Anyways, so when he died, my rights came back to me. And no one wanted the story because at the time everyone was like, well, I was literally told if you were like a gay lesbian or something, then yeah, the movie would go. And I'm like, God, no one wanted it because they didn't want an American going over to Pakistan and being like the savior or whatnot. And that's not how it was. It was just I was an asshole who was put in a terrible situation, and I handled it like an asshole, which is what actually gave me strength. But by the time I left that prison, I never changed. Everyone there changed in their perception of me. So for years, I tried to get I went to every interview, Paramount Vantage. It was, I think it was the same company that did A Mighty Heart with Angelina Jolie. It was a story about Daniel Pearl, but it was told through the eye line of the wife. And the problem with that story was, Paramount Vantage? Paramount Vantage did that movie, and they said, if that movie does good, then we'll do your movie. And I'm like, why? They're like, well, because they got the same comparison. I go, how? They go, because it's about Pakistan. I'm like, that's like saying because it's under a blue sky. That's the only comparison.
I know, Eric, sorry to interrupt you, but in Hollywood, nobody knows what works till it works. They used to make space movies and rocket ship movies, in the 50s. And then there came a time where nobody made a single space movie for years, and then Star Wars comes out, does $1 billion or whatever it does, and everybody's like, let's make a space movie,
Right.
So nobody knows what works in Hollywood until it works, and then they all jump on the bandwagon. It takes somebody who's a risk taker to take that move to make your movie happen. And we all know that in Hollywood, and I've been through it too, because I've had, recently development on the story of my life with my brother, all that kind of stuff. I don't count my eggs until it's signed on the dotted line. It's all great. People are interested. Let them go out there, sell it. But, when it happens, it happens. I don't talk about it. Although I mentioned it here a little bit. I don't talk about it or anything until it happens. That's Hollywood, as you know better than anybody.
Yeah, no, I a lot of time had gone by, and because of Mighty Heart tanked. And the sad thing about that is that was through the point of view of the wife about her husband, Daniel Pearl. But I actually sat in jail with the guy who ordered his killing, Omar Sheikh. Omar Sheikh bought a cell phone from me because I became like Red in Shawshank Redemption. If you needed something, you came to me. You wanted food, you wanted protection, you wanted VCDs, you wanted cell phones. you came to me and I was the guy who got it for you. So I sold him a cell phone. He used that cell phone from jail to organize 2 assassination attempts against the president of Pakistan's life. One of them almost got to him, killing a couple people in his convoy. He had a couple of suicide bombers drive their cars into his convoy. After that, I was like, I'm not selling you any more cell phones. But that was the only comparison I had to that. Like my story, like, look, anyways,
Eric, it's just about somebody taking the ball and running with it, my friend. You're going to hear all these excuses and all these positive things. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. No. It's just about when the ball moves, you know? And the bottom line is right now, for the benefit of this pleasurable show we're having with you, and thanks again for coming on, is that your book is out. And that's the main thing. So let's focus on 3 years in Pakistan. It's your story, Eric Aude's story. I highly recommend it, people, you know, and I'm going to use a comparison. If you saw the movie Midnight Express, if those kind of genres, themes interest you, along with everything else that's in this book, which is beyond the jail, it's worth buying and picking up and reading. I mean, it's a fascinating story. You're a fascinating guy. You're 44 years old, and the world is your oyster. You got another 50 years ahead of you, God knows what. I mean, just saw Clint Eastwood at 93, you know, and God knows he was directing and making movies up till a year ago or whatever. Just look at the future, man. The future's bright. The past is the past. You learn from the past and you go for the future.
I'm living every day. The book is available on Amazon right now in paperback. Ebook and hard copy are coming out pretty soon. It's called 3 Years in Pakistan. There's also a documentary called 3 Years in Pakistan, but that the book is basically my entire life. It's very more in depth.
It gives you a chance to put so much more into it. And the documentary I read too. Saw too. I recommend them both. Catch it.
All right. We'll do it.
We're good? Did I lose Eric?
We're good. No, we're here.
No, I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Yeah. No, just catch it. 3 years in Pakistan. Eric Aude. Aude.
Aude.
Yeah. You know, if you're having a bad day, you read a little bit of my story. You're like, you know what? It could be worse. It could always be worse. And if you could, there's a saying in my book. Well, that was in my life. Whenever something bad happened, I'd say, hey, there's always ketchup. And the reason why I'd say that is because in jail, when the food was bad and things are going bad, you know, you could always add a little ketchup to the food, and it helped make it a little better. So when the other prisoners' rooms were getting searched until last sheet, or the guards were getting beaten, you know, I'd be like, hey, at least there's ketchup. There's always ketchup.
Oh man, if I had to rely on ketchup to make things taste better, I think I might be 100 pounds.
Oh God,
I hate ketchup. I cannot handle ketchup.
Yeah, in jail, you can't. Sometimes you don't get to choose. You're just happy you have it. The things that you think that you take advantage of now are the things that you'll be missing the most. Like clean water, ice, a sitting toilet, a hot shower, a pillow.
I was going to say, how about a hot shower? That for sure.
You miss all the little things when you go to jail.
Well, I don't plan on going to jail.
Let's look forward to the big things. We're going to sign off now. Let's look forward to the big things. Big thing for you is the release of your book. I recommend it. Everybody's got not everybody, but just if you enjoyed this hour segment of On It's Time Radio, then spend a few hours and check out 3 Years in Pakistan, the Eric Aude story. Available on Amazon, correct?
Yes.
Very cool. And I will see you on the poker table at some point in the future.
Yeah, you will. Yeah, you will.
And you know I'm going to take your money, bro.
I'm a professional donator. Of course you're gonna.
No, you can come after me too. We played before. You're good, Eric.
Thank you.
You're definitely a hell of a poker player for sure, and a hell of a guy. Eric, thank you for being on the show. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we sign off?
No, hey, thank you so much for having me, Bruce. It means a lot. And then if you guys can, I really appreciate you taking the time, because this book's taken me 7 years to finally get out there. I'm pretty proud of it. I'm proud of myself for doing it. And when I was just told no again and again and again, rather than just giving up, I found a way. I know it took a lot longer than I'd hoped it would, but I finally got it out there. I've never written a book before, but honestly, I think it turned out okay.